So here we are again,
Yes.
another day, another holiday.
Yes, here we are. We love our holidays. More the merrier.
We sure do. And yesterday everyone had the day off work for a holiday called President's Day.
Yes.
But we don't really do President's Day because
No.
we don't know what that means.
No, we don't know what that means.
So today we are celebrating the life of a very important individual on his real birthday. It's
George Washington's birthday.
And so we realized we really didn't know very much about George. And as we studied on him a little bit to see what this holiday was about. And we had a lot of fun with this one.
Yeah, we found all sorts of interesting things about not only George, but his wife Martha.
Yeah, it turns out they were really quite a team.
Yes, they were.
And I didn't really understand anything about her or her personality or who she was, but she really contributed in a major way to his success.
Yes.
And so I am dressed like his wife, Martha Washington, and of course John is dressed like George.
Here I am.
And so together we're going to do a little presentation about his life and also adding things about her life
Yes.
as well. And there is a TV show on right now called Ghosts. And the ghosts are living in a mansion with other people, and they continue to evolve
Right.
after their death as part of the culture. So we're going to be the ghosts
Of George.
and Martha Washington, and we're going to reflect upon our time when we were living in the other plane
Right.
of the existence on Earth.
The earthly plane.
The earthly plane, right. Okay, so our fire went out. Oh, well. Okay, so, well, George, one of the things that I always admired about you so much
That's
was the fact that even though you didn't have a lot of formal schooling, in fact, you only had a grade school education,
that's right.
that you were such a tremendous success.
Right. Yes. Yes, my father died when I was 11 years old. And my brother, he'd gone ahead to England and had an excellent education, but my education stopped at that time. But I was very curious. I kept learning.
He thought, yes, he loved to learn. And I was so impressed that when he was 14 years old, he had an interest not only in becoming a knowledgeable person, but in becoming a gentleman. So he wrote out these French 110 rules of civility about how to eat and how to talk to people and how to be mannerly.
Right.
And he studied these and kept them with him all of his life.
All of my life, I followed those rules.
Yes, to try to, really be a kind person and a courteous person and a gentleman.
But you had an excellent education in comparison.
Well, for a woman, I had an excellent
Yeah, for
education.
a woman.
So I learned how to do all of the normal things like, housekeeping, music, religion, needlework, all those things. But I was fortunate that they taught me to read and write,
Right.
which was unusual for women of my day. So I was able to read.
Right.
I read magazines, I read novels, I read books of all kinds, so we both shared that. our
But I was
love of
so
reading.
impressed by everything you knew and could keep up on what it was to be active in that time that we met.
Yes, it was wonderful the way that we could connect in conversation. Never run out of things to talk about. So that was indeed a wonderful thing. So despite your sort of, lack of formal education, you must have been quite the charmer. Because after just, you stayed on the farm and worked on the farm, and then you were a surveyor for a very short time.
Right.
But then you applied, you thought your path to success might be through the military.
Mm-hmm.
So you applied to be a member of the Virginia militia.
That's right,
You
I
went
did
for
do
an
that.
interview, And look what happened. They hired him not as a private or whatever, an infantryman or something. They hired you what? As a major.
A major. I was a major right from the start.
Right from the start.
Right.
That must have been some interview, George.
Yeah, I knew how to interview, and actually I knew the territory pretty well.
Yeah.
Because I was a surveyor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, apparently you did something right. Although, then going forward, and I know, you'd read a lot and all that, but then there was that incident.
Yeah, when you're out there in that French and Indian War,
Well, there was no French and Indian
well,
War
actually it wasn't. but
until you
there-
started it.
Yeah,
He started the
I
French
started,
and
yeah.
Indian War. I mean,
Well,
he started it
yeah,
single-handedly.
actually.
How did that work?
Well, there was this diplomat out there, and he got in the line of fire
He was with a group
with a group of
French
of
army
the French, and
embedded.
it just
Nowadays,
escalated
they'd say.
into that, and lasted, I think, 7 years. It was incredible.
Yes, unfortunately.
I really regret that.
They did not mean to start that war.
No,
And,
no.
George felt really bad about the fact
Right.
and what the Indians did to that diplomat. It was not good. But once again, talk about, Teflon,
That's
right? Because
right.
at the end of this experience, you were a war hero.
I was a war hero. Everybody knew me, and I was well known. Now you were, you had a. Well, managed the army. You were managing a great estate. I was just impressed by
I
that.
was, for a woman of my time. George, your dogs are out of control.
Yes, those dogs. I don't know. 16 of them.
All right, well, we'll talk about the dogs later.
Yeah, later.
But anyway, yeah, I was 19 years old. I married the richest man in Virginia.
That was something.
Yes, I married the richest man in Virginia. He was 20 years older than me. But we were only married 7 years, and he passed away.
He did, yes.
He
I
passed
heard
away.
about that.
And so I inherited everything in his estate.
Right.
So I had to figure out what to do.
It was a big estate, wasn't it?
Yes, it was what, 17,000
17,000 acres.
acre
A lot of
tobacco farm.
negotiations.
Oh my goodness, I had to sign contracts, I had to travel to Britain to negotiate trade deals. I had to take care of the whole thing. Well, I could have just turned it over and hired someone to do it.
Yeah.
But I thought I could do it.
And you did?
And I did. I think I did a pretty good job.
Yeah.
And, it wasn't for that long. It was really only about a year because, of course, I had suitors left and right.
Yes, you
Being
did.
one of the richest women
Right.
in the colonies. And so I remember when we met.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my goodness, I was so impressed with you. You were a whole foot taller than me, 6'2",
Oh,
and dashing and handsome and manners impeccable.
Yes, well, I mean, when I saw you, I was very glad that was true because you were so beautiful and charming and so understanding of society and all its ways. I was just taken away by you.
Well, some of those men I knew, they were only interested in me for my money.
Right,
But not you. I mean, we had so much in common.
right.
And such great conversation. And even though you were a military man,
Right.
you loved the theater and the arts.
Yes.
And, such a dancer.
Right.
Oh my goodness,
I
could
love
you
dancing.
dance?
I love the
You
dancing.
you still love dancing.
Yes.
And that was just a wonderful thing. You just swept me off my feet. And so it was only what?
Mm-hmm.
How long before we were married?
Yeah, 1759.
Only 1 year?
1 year. yeah.
1 year.
A rapid,
So,
great
I
romance.
and then, after that, of course, then,
And then I found out that you were involved with religion so deeply.
yeah, after we moved to your place
Yeah.
at Mount Vernon, we
Right.
moved to your place.
Yeah. And
Yeah, religion was always very important to me.
yeah, the Church of England and the Book of Common Prayer. I mean, you would closet yourself in your room from 9 to 10 every morning to read the scriptures, to pray the prayers of the Book of Common Prayer, which was very important in the life of the church. And then actually you spent 2 times a day going over the Book of Common Prayer.
For
So,
my,
it
for
was-
my
it-
whole life. It was
Yeah,
very,
it was
very
your life.
important to me. My faith is what sustained me.
It really sustained you, I mean,
But-
because you went through, you had a lot to do.
That was one thing, though, that we really did not have in common.
Yeah,
Yeah, because, I mean, George, I love you, and we got along famously. But, you know, you were not a religious man.
mm-hmm,
I mean, we didn't really talk about it very much, and,
Right.
you know, you always encouraged other people
mm-hmm.
in their religion, and you encouraged them to go to church, and you did go to church.
Yeah, I liked the first part of the service, but, you know,
You did, you know, you were also active serving in the church.
yeah, I was a vestryman.
A vestryman and all sorts of positions like that, but then when it came time for communion,
I just silently leave because it wasn't my understanding and my thing.
well, you know, to get up and leave every single week in communion and not worry about what people would say about
Yeah.
that shows what a brave man you were.
Yeah.
But
well,
you were a brave man.
Yeah.
You were known as the bravest in battle.
Mm-hmm,
And you never sent your troops out anywhere you weren't willing to
Right.
go. You were always leading them.
right,
And that was one of the things people really respected about you
yeah.
as a military man.
Yeah, because we had that big war of independence for years,
Yes, and they chose you to be the head of the entire Continental Army.
the whole army.
Because once again, they trusted you and they knew that, you know, you would be brave and you would lead them fearlessly. There was that one story of when, you know, you were like 30 yards from the British and you ran up there on your horse and you said, "Parade with me, my fine fellows, we will have them soon."
That's right.
And they remembered you for those words.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
remember that thing about crossing the Delaware? That was,
Yeah, and that was something unexpected. Usually everyone just encamped during the winter rather than, you know, launching an attack during the winter. That was such a bold
yeah.
and a bold and brave thing to do.
Well, it was just something I did to move it along, but then you were right there on the front lines at times. You were with me half of the time of the 6-year war.
Well, yeah, I would come in the winter when there wasn't
Yeah,
that
when
much
there wasn't
fighting.
much
And
going
also
on.
when there wasn't so much to handle on the estate.
Right.
Because during the growing season, I had to stay there.
Mm-hmm.
But during the winter, I would come and be with you, and just to show what a team we were, the government paid for me to come and stay with you
Right.
during the winter so that
They-
we could be together.
I definitely thought that was very important.
Yeah,
And,
I did too,
that
I mean, to
happened.
be separated
Now,
through that whole
remember the
war.
thing was, if you were gonna be on the front lines, you know, smallpox was everywhere. It was sort of
Everywhere.
like- And the soldiers came down with smallpox all the time. And you had to get some protection from smallpox, so you bravely took the vaccination.
Yes.
And
It was experimental vaccine. We didn't really know what would happen, but I
Right.
didn't want to get smallpox.
Yeah.
So I did,
So they did that, they put the stuff on your arm and poked it in, and
poked it in.
it wasn't like these days.
Well,
Yeah,
a lot of people didn't want to take it back then.
yeah, so that,
But if I was gonna stay there among all those soldiers, all those sick people, I was gonna have it. And then when the war was over,
yeah,
we thought we were gonna just retire to our simple life in
Right.
Mount Vernon. And that everything would be easy, but then
Mm-hmm.
what happened?
what happened, the Continental Congress, and the way the process worked, I was unanimously asked to be the first president,
The first president,
yes.
and because you were the only one they really trusted.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, it was the first time there was gonna be a president in history,
right.
so it was being invented, actually.
Yes, and you were the one that
Right.
had to invent how
Right.
it was gonna be.
Before
You
that
had
was,
to-
before that was all kings
Right,
and queens. Yeah.
so you had to set the standard for
Yeah.
what the leader of a democratic country would
Right.
look like.
Yeah, so, and that was difficult, because we had to leave Mount Vernon, and we had, the first time we were in New York. And then it was Philadelphia, you know. And, but you were doing incredible things, creating the role of First Lady.
Yeah, I had to figure out what that was about.
Yes, I mean, I remember with all your social experience in Virginia, you came up with all kind of gatherings and remember that one thing, you really came up, a weekly gathering at the mansion, the presidential mansion.
Yes, we wanted to, I thought it was really important that, the presidency was accessible. And so every week I hosted a reception and people could come and it was, could be dignitaries or just ordinary people come and share their concerns or socialize. And so our house was open to that. And of course, I did have experience with the balls and things that with my, when I inherited the estate, when I married into the estate, so.
And you had to dress up like that every day.
Every day, and that I didn't like. Because on the farm, you could dress casually a lot of the time, but when I became First Lady, I wanted to set a good example, and so I made sure that I was dressed up every day.
So,
and sometimes I felt like somewhat of a prisoner, but it was important for both George and I to figure out what this new republic was going to look like, and to set a good example. But when you finally got done with your 2 terms, then we were finally able to go back to what we loved, which was farming on Mount Vernon.
And there was all the work, all kind of special work I came up with.
You were a very innovative farmer. I mean, talk about the mule.
Oh, the mule, There was this great horse, wasn't it? I got, and there was a donkey
from a Spanish a man in Spain. As a gift,
and
he gave you a
they
donkey.
mated, and out came a mule.
Yeah.
So and this became one of the great work animals in all of history.
Right.
I can't believe that was a gift that I gave to civilization.
That you gave to the farmers of that time.
And then remember,
Very
I
important.
changed the crops.
Right. They laughed at you about that. They couldn't figure that out. Because what were you growing first?
Tobacco.
And where did that go?
Went to England.
Yeah, went to England.
Yeah.
So you switched over to
Wheat.
wheat.
Yeah.
And who ate that?
I guess that's a real good sign.
The people in the colonies.
Yeah.
They were the ones that so you switched over from doing like colonial type crops to actual food crops for the people. And you led in that switch.
Right.
So that was
And you heard the dogs earlier, didn't you?
Oh my gosh, you and your dogs. You must have had 500 dogs.
Yeah.
I'm telling you. Because I can't even remember all, so I have a list
Oh,
here.
there's a greyhound.
But you had Dalmatians.
Yeah. Mastiffs.
Mastiffs, you had
Pointers.
Newfoundlands, you had Spaniels, a lot of hunting dogs.
Knaves.
Yeah, terriers.
And I had a name for each one of them.
You did, and you came up with some pretty crazy names too.
I like that one. Sweet Lips.
Sweet Lips.
Kiss me all the time.
Yeah, then Venus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Taylor.
Taster.
Oh yeah.
Taylor? I don't remember Taylor.
All right, that was anyway. Drunkard. Yeah, he was
Drunkard.
always wild.
But
And then that one you liked the name.
Madam Moose.
Madam Moose.
Madam Moose.
Oh,
what a
crazy thing.
sweet dog. What a sweet dog. And you bred dogs too. In fact, you were recognized as being the father of the American Foxhound.
Right. And unfortunately, I was not a father. We didn't have any children ourselves, but you brought family from your first marriage.
Yes, I had 4 children, and 3 of them died before they had children.
Yeah.
But one of them lived to be a young man,
Right.
and gave us some grandchildren, and he passed away young. Though.
Yeah, that
And
was
we
John.
raised his children.
His
so,
children,
you
yeah.
know, we raised our grandchildren together from a young age,
Yeah.
and we also raised several of our nieces and nephews. So
Right.
we had children at
Yeah,
one
we had
time.
children around and
We did.
passed on our things. So,
We did. But, you know, it was a sad thing that we never had any
No,
children.
we always regretted that.
But they thought the people nowadays, you know, they think maybe the reason we didn't have any children was because you were so sick all the time.
Yeah.
I mean, even though you were the picture of health
Yes.
and strength,
Right.
and everyone, you know, trusted you to lead, and you had every disease.
Yeah.
You were a hard man to kill, George Washington.
That's right, yeah, yeah.
What all did you have? You had
Well,
diphtheria,
I had smallpox,
tuberculosis,
malaria,
malaria, dysentery,
and then there was those abscesses.
abscesses, ew, especially in your
Ooh.
throat. You had
Yeah.
abscesses all the time.
Yeah.
You know,
And
you
then
had Pneumonia,
yeah, pneumonia.
pleurisy.
Oh, I mean, and people around us, I mean, it wasn't easy in that time. There was a lot of disease.
Well, yeah, and you caught all of them.
Yeah,
You caught all of them.
Yeah.
And then you almost drowned in the icy river that time.
oh my gosh, that was cold.
And the massacre at Fort Necessity, you slipped out the back door on that one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And those horses that were shot under me.
There go your dogs again, George.
Oh, yes, they go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there were times when you actually had bullets go through your clothing and
Right.
didn't touch you.
It's,
You were never actually shot.
yeah, I was evidently hard to kill.
You were hard to kill, but then what was it that actually brought you down?
A cold,
A cold.
cold,
A common cold.
yeah,
But actually, I don't think it was really the cold that killed you.
yeah. Well, you know, those treatments, they had bloodletting, and they actually took 40% of my blood out of my body. And
Yeah.
I felt weaker and weaker and weaker, and it was over.
But you weren't really afraid to die.
No.
What is it you were afraid of?
I was afraid of that they would bury me and bury me alive.
That's right.
Yeah.
And so we did what he had asked, and we kept him out for 3 days.
Yeah, hit me.
Just to make sure that he was dead, because he had
Right.
heard of cases of people being buried alive. And I was too heartbroken to go
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
to your funeral. I just couldn't bear it. There were so many people, and it was just too much for me. You were the
Yeah.
love of my
Right.
life.
I saw that you weren't there, but I understood.
Yeah, yeah.
We were so close.
But we were. And I made sure that our private life stayed private.
Yes. What did you do?
I burned the letters.
Burned the letters.
I burned our letters.
Yeah. No, well, I appreciate that a lot. Yeah. And
Then,
Good.
it wasn't very long. It was maybe 3 years. And
yeah,
then
just a few
I
years.
passed away too.
Yeah. And
But
we were buried in a very simple grave in Mount Vernon, and here we are.
But here we are. Wasn't that a surprise?
Yes, it was.
Yes, because I mean, you know, you don't really know what heaven is going to look like, but heaven for me is certainly to be able to spend eternity with you.
Yes.
And so we continue on here, and
See what's going on.
we see what's going on,
We even have one of our dogs.
right? And we're happy that America is still a democracy.
Right.
Things get a little rough, but so far, we've
Yes.
been able to hang on.
Still going on. So,
So,
happy George Washington's birthday!